Good morning and welcome to another edition of The Word with G here under the Chatted Up Sports umbrella. I'm your host, Greg Larnard. We are coming to you live here on a Tuesday morning, and we're going to get into a lot of Mocs softball coming up here in just a little while. But before we do that, let me tell you first and foremost, follow us all over social media at Chatted Up Sports, wherever you get your podcasts as well, on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Music. Again, anywhere you get your podcasts, check us out at Chatted Up Sports. 5 stars, nothing less. Make sure you tell a friend. And of course, you can hear the regularly scheduled program every single Monday and Thursday evening around 8 o'clock. We go live. If you missed the episode from last night, I had a couple of good interviews with Will McFadden from the Atlanta Falcons. He was in the Birdcage, kind of throwback segment to our old Word with G days, where we talked a lot about the Falcons. Then my man Sam Dusenberry Jr. joined us as well to talk all about the NBA All-Star game and post-All-Star game. A lot of different things happening around the National Basketball Association. But today, and as we do every single Tuesday morning at about 10:30, we focus on UTC softball. Yes, I am one of the assistant coaches for the UTC softball program, and we are pleased to be joined every single Tuesday on Mocs Softball Weekly by the man who is in his 24th year at the helm of the UTC softball program, Mr. Frank Reed. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. Sun's shining, so that's good.
It is, but it's still a little chilly out there. Obviously, it was a little cold this past weekend. Might be a little chilly this upcoming weekend as well. But the sun is shining, as you mentioned, and it's definitely a good day to be out there. So let's rewind a little bit and talk about this past weekend. Obviously, it didn't go the way we wanted it to for us. We were 1-4 in the Chattanooga Challenge. We faced UNA a couple of times, and then Lindenwood 3 times as well. So a couple of teams bunched up there at Frost Stadium this past weekend. Let's start with your overall thoughts on the weekend. There wasn't a whole lot of runs scored on our end. Needed to be a little bit better offensively. We didn't really do as good of a job as the previous weekend and coming out there and hitting. So give me your quick thoughts on the weekend going 1-4 and how the season is still very young.
Yeah, I mentioned young. I'm not sure I like the term. It didn't go as the way we wanted it to go. Obviously, you consider wins in the win column as something that you're looking for. But with this team, obviously new team, it's always hard to come off of a year that we had last year and come, just bounce back to where we were. I got to thinking about it over the weekend, actually my drive home on Sunday after we got out of the sleet, about the team and just thinking some things that come to mind. And one of the things is, even though we got several seniors coming back, we only have, I think, 3 kids, maybe 4 that are in the original positions that they played last year.
Yeah.
So we've moved some people around, tried to find the mix that works. So we played a lot of people. I've honestly played a lot more people than I normally would play. Usually I set my lineup pretty quick, and I won't vary off of it 1 or 2 players. Just a thing that I do. But that being said, we have played a lot of people just trying to figure out, where we want to go with the lineup and how it fits. I always think that you don't mess with a winning lineup. So if you win, we'll probably try to go back to that same lineup outside the pitching. And we've still got some learning to go. If you're not winning and you're not figuring out getting better doing it, that sounds sort of contrary, I guess. But if you're not winning and you're not getting better losing, then we got a problem if we're backing way up. I see some bright spots. I really don't want to peak now. That's the typical thing a coach would tell you. We don't want to peak now. And in this long season, like baseball, pro baseball or whatever, it's a run to the end. And, we're not sprinting, we're jogging, and we're trying to figure out how to get better. What I want to do, I want to win that game. That's the final game in the conference tournament to, project us to the regionals. That's my goal and what we're looking for. We've done that, I think, back in 22. I mean, we didn't have a tremendous record, but we were able to put it together at the end, played fantastic softball, in the tournament, and, made a good showing in regionals. So that's what we're looking for long term, and hopefully hopefully we'll find that mix pretty quick.
All right, so you mentioned, the growth of the team and, things like that and, how we are still kind of learning and growing as a unit. And I know for us, in behind the scenes conversations, we talked about getting other players opportunities. Where have you seen this group sort of growing the most as a unit or specific players if you want to go that route?
Well, yeah, I mean, some of the freshmen have been able to step up and give us some positive light. Maybe seeing an opportunity to go into the lineup. We're trying to make assessments on mostly on what they did fall and what they did early spring scrimmage, and we're still, I'm still looking back at some of those numbers and seeing, who all we need to give a chance. We've shuffled the outfield around quite a bit, trying to figure out, other than Cam Cernudo in center, I don't think there's been any day that any two games that we've had the same left or right fielder, and just trying to find that mix. We got a lot of people that I think should be in the lineup offensively, but maybe not defensively as well, as not as good defensively, maybe somebody else, and maybe those defensive players are not as good offensively. So trying to find that mix, who's DP, who's going to, we even went as far as placing people out of position, which people have asked me about that, and so I'm telling them I'm trying to get the best bats in the lineup. So it's still a work in progress. I think that I see some things that I want to work on and talk to staff just after this podcast. We'll have a meeting with staff about some things that I want to see us do this next week, and see if maybe that might make a change as we move forward.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what we're going to do differently this week in practice and whatnot to kind of, maybe work on some of the things that we need to work on. And it's a little difficult because it is so very cold outside, and sometimes you don't always get a chance to go outside. We do obviously have the luxury of using the indoor. But when it comes to some of the players specifically, I want to talk about from this past weekend. Riley Lamb got a start in one of the games in which we did lose 5-0. I believe it was it Lindenwood or UNA? But she pitched incredibly well in that game, and it was to UNA, and she pitched really well in that game, and I thought that was a nice step in the right direction for her. And I know you do the pitch calling and you work a lot with the pitchers and whatnot. So talk to me a little bit about Riley Lamb's performance in that one and sort of the growth that you've seen out of her early this season.
Yeah, Riley needed a game like that. I think she was a little discouraged. We got, 3 strong pitchers around her, so there shouldn't be any reason why we couldn't get any one of those people starts. I'm not sure we found our true reliever, the kid that's going to come off the bench and be able to have that mentality to do that. That's a little concerning for me right now. I think all of our kids are sort of starters, and so we can't start everybody. And we're not going to guarantee that, like Riley did in that game where she went the distance. So, but she needed a game like that. We approached the pitch calling just a little bit differently with her. We got to stay ahead in the count with her. We can't go 2-2. I don't think as much as we can how we've done in the past. So, trying to keep everyone up and then let her throw the pitches that deceive them. And I think she did a really good job at that. She throws really hard. Just consistency in hitting her spots. And when she did that and she was up, used to change up a little bit more for her. And so that was huge, I think, in getting her, the full 7 innings.
Yeah, it was. It was good to see her go out there and pitch a complete game, and she battled the whole way through, and I think she'll definitely be better because of that. What about the other pitchers? You mentioned Alyssa and Taylor and Peja, kind of all starters, and we're sort of searching for that reliever, and Taylor's kind of backed up Peja, and she's backed up other pitchers and whatnot. What have you seen out of those 3? I know you mentioned earlier in the conversation, hey, we don't want to be peaking right now in February, and they're sort of still working through their process, and it doesn't seem like any of them are as incredibly as sharp as we'd like them to be. What are some things that you think all 3 of them need to do and be a little bit more consistent at to get to that point of being as sharp as we've seen them, where Alyssa last year was a second-team all-conference player, and Peja was, pitcher of the year, preseason pitcher of the year, and Taylor, before her injury, was sort of on that trajectory to be that conference pitcher of the year? What are some things that you see or feel like they need to get a little bit better at as we continue to sharpen up as the season goes?
Just being able to, like I said, I think it's huge just to hit in the count. Some of them are a little bit better coming from behind. If you're 3-1, you don't mind throwing a pitch out of the zone. But I'll be honest with you, if I'm 3-1, I'm not going to. I don't like walking. So we're going to challenge them. We're going to hopefully they're going to hit something that we can field and we can at least give us an option. If we're throwing out of the zone on the 3-1, hopes they swing, then we know we're throwing the ball. We know we're not throwing something that they're going to swing it. I mean, if they don't swing, so we're leaving it in the hands of the umpire, I guess, or whatever. So I don't like doing that. So I think the huge thing for them, I think if you look back at each one of them, the pitch calls, the times they've been most successful is when they're ahead in the count. So that first pitch is huge, and so with Riley, we broke it down really simple and threw a pitch that she could throw for. We felt like we were going to get for a strike. So, and you have a lot of when you chart people, you have a lot of people that says first pitch swinger, and realistically, I'll bet you I would be really, really willing to bet that 75 to 80% of kids don't swing on first pitch. That's a high number, and so. Even if it's a good pitch, they're wanting to look at one more. They want to look at that pitch, look at speed. They want to gauge it. They want to decide if they want to make an adjustment in the box. They want to move up, move back, closer in. They want to make those adjustments based on what they're seeing and based on maybe what they saw the last time that they faced it. So I think that we got to be a little bit more where we want to throw something that we feel like we'll get a strike on. It doesn't have to be a perfect pitch, but it's something that we can get up swinging at.
Yeah, that's very mellifluous to hear. And when it comes to hitters, and when I do want to talk about some hitters specifically, but you just sort of mentioned how a lot of hitters take that first pitch strike and they're not willing to swing early and often in the count. I know we've always talked about, at least since I've been here, trying to be aggressive and trying to get that attack mentality. We talked a lot about that in the second half last year of the season. Is that something that you've always sort of preached with your teams over the last, I'm going to go back to the Chattanooga years, so the last 30 years, Chattanooga State years, so the last 30 years or so? Is that something that you like offensively from an offensive philosophy standpoint to be, hey, if there's a first pitch there, attack, have no problem with your hitters attacking, or would you rather them sort of feel out the at-bat, or does it really depend on maybe the situation of the player?
I think it depends on the person. Some people just didn't have the mentality to be able to jump in there and hit a first pitch. They want to look at a pitch or two, and I'm not definitely opposed to that. But I think when the count's 0-0, you've got a better shot at getting something that's going to be close because the pitcher doesn't want to go, a ball down right from the beginning and then take a chance on going 2 balls down. And then that's where I think we found ourselves a lot. We found ourselves a lot, and we're going 2 balls down. And then what do you throw? You don't want to go 3. So you got to throw something a little closer. So then you're going back to, hey, maybe you should have been a little closer on that pitch number 1. So you're not down 2, and then now you're 2-1, and you still got to throw a pretty good pitch, or you're 3-1, and then you're looking to have to throw something, forces your hand to throw something that you're depending on them to swing at. And I want them to put it in a situation where we want them to swing at it because they're on the defensive mode. They know that they can't go down. They can't go down another strike. Yeah. So that's I think that's one of the things. I don't know. That may sound reversed, but that's sort of the way I would go.
All right, let's talk about Olivia LePerry. I know just from obviously being there day in and day out, she didn't have the greatest fall. She kind of struggled in scrimmages in leading up to the season, if we're being honest. But you always had a feeling, hey, when the season came around, she would figure it out. And obviously she wouldn't be facing our pitching all the time. And, maybe people wouldn't know Olivia, obviously, as well as you do, pitch calling against her. But she had a fantastic weekend this weekend. She really helped us to that last victory. She had a couple of really big hits, and she's been pretty consistent as this season has sort of unfolded early on here to the point where she's one of our leading hitters, and she's that girl that you kind of rely upon right in the middle of that lineup to produce for you. And in that last game, a couple of big hits, 2 for 2, 4 RBIs, and she really helped pick up the slack with when some other players like Aislinn wasn't having quite the weekend she had the weekend before, and Presley wasn't as consistent as she was. So just talk about how important Olivia was right in the middle of that lineup, specifically to get that last win, and how much we need her sort of going forward to be that middle of the order presence for our lineup.
I've always thought Olivia was a perfect 3-hole hitter.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Coach? Coach, are you frozen? He may have gotten a little frozen there. We'll see. We'll see if we can get Coach back and let him kind of work through his technical difficulties on that end. But just sort of going off of what he was about to get into, talking about Olivia as the perfect 3-hole hitter. She really is, from a perspective of a technical standpoint, from her being able to work counts. She's got an incredibly good eye. She is somebody who has a really good knowledge of the strike zone, knows exactly what she's looking for, is really good about not swinging at balls. She's not going to put herself in a precarious situation where she's got to kind of come back and she's got to battle from, taking a bad swing. I rarely, in my 2 years now or year and a half now being with the UTC softball program, I have rarely seen Olivia LePerry take a swing that you're like, excuse me, what the heck was she swinging at? And you see a lot of the times in softball and in baseball, it's easy for players to get fooled. And whether it's by a drop ball, drop curve, rise ball, change up, very rarely does Olivia get fooled and take a bad swing. So what I really like about Olivia and always have appreciated about her and her swing is that, one, she's very process oriented. She kind of reminds me of Kaylee Phillips, aka Meat Pie, aka Philly, from the year before. She has a routine, she has a process, and she really works really, really hard to perfect that process, to know exactly what she's doing and what she's looking for in any given count. And since I've been here last year, the one big thing that Olivia and I have really worked on is making sure that we can hit the outside pitch consistently. And I was really proud of her this past weekend because there was a pitch down in a way, and she stayed on it beautifully, something we've been working on since last year. She took it down the right field line, had a big double out of it. And you watch the whole weekend, especially against Lindenwood, they were shifting around towards the left on us. And Olivia did a great job by taking that pitch exactly where it was pitched and took it down the right field line. And she was able to make something happen with it. So I was really impressed by her at-bats this past weekend. Again, she was awesome. And I've always appreciated the mechanically sound swing that she has. She really gets through extension really well. Again, she rarely gets fooled. She has a great knowledge of the strike zone, up and down, in and out, and she always has a really good demeanor about her. Whether she's playing really well or really bad, she kind of really keeps even keel, and she always kind of keeps lighthearted, where she's not afraid to laugh and joke, but when it's time to lock in, she locks in. And another, thing about Olivia, Coach Reed mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that we've got a bunch of different kids playing out of position almost, or playing different positions than what they're used to. And that includes Olivia. Look, we have Kaylee Snell, who plays shortstop still, Aislinn, who's, at first, Jace, who's been catching, and then Cam, who's in center. So those are the mainstays, those four right there. And I know Mia Leone has been catching a little bit more, just kind of giving Jace, a little time off. And Jace had a big home run this past weekend. I think it was her first hit of the season for her. She's obviously a tremendous defensive catcher, trying to get her going a little bit offensively. Mia's put together some pretty good at-bats, and she's actually been really good behind the plate as well. Just needs to work on being a little bit more vocal, is what we always talk to her about. And I think her awareness has been really good in terms of being aware of the base runners and the situations and things like that, but just needing to be a little bit more vocal and just play the game a little bit. She's just a freshman, and you can kind of tell in some situations where there was a cutoff play where play from the outfield coming in towards Aislinn at first base, cutting it off, and Mia wasn't as vocal as she needed to be, or wasn't vocal at all, and the ball got cut by Aislinn, and that cost us an opportunity for a play at the plate. We talked to her afterwards, and she mentioned, hey, look, I thought the throw was tailing off. I thought it would be a good idea for her to cut, or maybe she verbalized the cut instead of just letting it go, because she thought it was going to be a little bit offline. But in that situation, probably better to have to take 1 or 2 steps to your right to catch it and then maybe make a play at home, because if you cut that ball, there's going to be no play at home anyways. But again, the growing pains of a younger player and a freshman for sure. But talking about the other players that are playing a little out of position, obviously Olivia's first and foremost on everybody's mind, because she played second base for us, started at second base all year long. And that's not something that Coach Reed is trying to call me. Let me just text him back. So yeah. So Olivia, when it comes to her playing third base, she played second for us all year long last year. And the first weekend she felt a little uncomfortable. There were a couple of plays in which she didn't know exactly what position she needed to be in, with a ball hitting especially the 5-6 hole, how far she could range, where she needed to be with a runner on second base for Kaylee Snell. Ended up costing Kaylee an error where she threw it across the diamond and ended up getting away from Aislinn. So there's just little things about that. We worked really hard this past week to try to get her comfortable on those balls hit in that 5-6 hole. All right, what can I go get? In what situation do I need to get back to the base? What situation do I let this ball go through and let Kaylee go after it as the shortstop? So she's gotten more comfortable with that. And if you watch her this past weekend, she made all the plays. She's been much more aggressive at third base. She's attacking the softball. She's fielding it really nicely out in front, making good throws, making better decisions at third base. So again, incredibly proud of what Olivia has been able to do and what she's been able to accomplish over there at third base so far this year. Again, changing positions a little bit, going from second base to third base. And I know she's played some outfield when she was in her younger years at UTC as well. And it's funny, that's kind of the running joke within our team of, all right, she's been moved all around. She's that super utility player. Now that she's finally comfortable at third base, it's about time to move her back to the outfield, right? She's got to skedaddle her way back to the outfield. That's kind of our running joke, that once she gets comfortable at a position, we got to move her around. But she's somebody that is incredibly athletic, and I think she would be good anywhere you put her. Literally anywhere you put Olivia, I would probably feel comfortable. If you wanted to put her at any of the infield positions, you want to put her at shortstop, I'd have no problem with that. I think Olivia could handle shortstop. She could handle the outfield positions. She could handle catching. Sometimes I've seen her, in her, my year and a half here with UTC, I've seen her put the catcher's gear on and, catch bullpens. I conceivably know that she can go out there and she can catch if need be, because she's just that much of an athlete. So again, really excited by the growth that Olivia's made. She's an integral part to our lineup, what we're doing every single day, especially at the 3-hole. And I really had no doubt that she would pick it up and she would be good to go when the season came around. So proud of Olivia and how she's grown and how she's played and whatnot as the season has progressed here early on. A couple other players that are, I'm not going to say out of position, but are playing different positions. Not so playing different positions. Zoe Wright has always been a second baseman, but she's finally getting an opportunity. And I'll tell you what, there are not a lot of second basemen that you can see within our conference that would be able to make some of the plays that she's making, where she's ranging way to her right, being quick, having to go to her left and be quick, having to go to her right, get the ball out of her glove really quickly. She's been great at second base. Obviously, a defensive stalwart. She, as Jace would always like to say, she's smooth like butter. That's what she always says about Zoe. So that's, again, a little insight there when it comes to Zoe and Jace and whatnot. So really cool that Zoe's getting an opportunity. She's taking advantage of it. She hit really well in weekend number one, didn't hit as well last weekend. But she's somebody that you're relying on to sort of turn the lineup back over to the top. So that's been really good to see her do that. And there are definitely some things that we're going to work on mechanically with her when it comes to slapping and swinging away and getting more comfortable when it comes to her hitting, and she can get a little bit more consistent. All right, so rejoining us now is the head coach of the UTC Mocs, Mr. Frank Reed. What's up, Coach? Welcome back in.
Sorry about technology.
Hey,
Rose.
It's okay. It happens every once in a while, and I'm glad we're have you back. I was able to filibuster a little bit. I was just talking about Olivia and was kind of picking up where you left off a little bit about talking about how consistent her swing is, talking about how good, she's been this past weekend at third base, making a lot more plays, getting comfortable over there and getting aggressive. If you want to kind of touch on that yourself, feel free to jump in on that. I'd love to hear a little bit more of what you think about the way Olivia's played this year and how you're about to say how you've always viewed her as sort of the perfect 3-hitter.
Yeah, she is. And, she's been such a leader. She's president of our SAC program that it was our SAC national leader. So she simplifies those leadership qualities that we need on the field. And the players respect her. She comes every day to work. She's never happy with a performance that she feels like is lackluster or something that she hasn't been able to prove herself. And, we asked her, she's played 3 positions since she's been here. She came here as maybe a middle third, and we asked her to play the outfield, and she made, top 10 catches in the outfield and played out there really, really well and hit well. And then we asked her to go to second base, and she was one of the part of the duo with the middles and the corners, were setting some numbers with double plays. And then we asked her to move to third, and so she's been all over the field. And even this year's said she'd be willing to move from third to back to anywhere else we thought we might need her, because we're sort of trying to figure it out. And I'm really hesitant about moving her again because she's sort of settled in there as well, and she gives us the quickness on the corners that we need. She understands situations. She knows where she's supposed to be. She never fails to be where she's supposed to be, and so kudos to her for such a great job. And the balance out with the hitting that she did this weekend. We're gonna need to count on her really strong moving forward, as well as getting Callie Snell and Cam Cernuto on base. We can get those 2 on base. Just with Olivia in that third hole, we can score a lot of runs.
Yeah, we certainly can. It's exciting to see. And then, Aislinn coming around and getting off to the hot start again. Didn't have a fantastic weekend like she did in the opening weekend, but she's somebody that we're going to rely upon right in the middle of that lineup. Hopefully we can get Bailey Pitts going this week because we need her bat to get going as well. And as you move sort of down the lineup, it was interesting to see on Sunday that we had 3 freshmen right in a row with Mia Leone. It was Lexi Cooley was there, and then Izzy Carlisle as well. And Izzy and Lexi kind of had the 2 corner spots this past weekend on Sunday in our final game, and we ended up winning that game 5-3. So talk to me a little bit about the freshmen and where they're at right now and where you're at when it comes to the corner outfield spots, because it still seems like, hey, there's a lot up for grabs. And, I know I called it out after the game, but, Lexi Cooley had her first, collegiate hit, and she's really fast in the outfield. She gets good reads, and Izzy Carlisle didn't have a hit in that game, but she was able to drop down a sac bunt, which was obviously important for us. So talk to me a little bit about some of the freshmen and where you are right now in terms of the corner play, because there's still a lot that needs to be sort of decided out there before we sort of get settled on those 2 corner spots.
Well, when we go to that lineup, we're leaving some power on the bench. So what we've tried to do in the past is play some people sort of out of position with, like Bailey Pitts, can play the outfield. She'll tell you she's not the best defensive outfielder, but we count on her bat. So when you take her completely out of the lineup, that leaves us a little slack down on the lower side, which is my feeling. And so I opted to go with a lineup that was going to give us a little bit better defense. And let's see if we can get some offensive numbers out of those. We were able to get a hit, like you said, out of Lexi. So it's not a lineup that I'm afraid of. We moved that way. We were able to put Bailey in the DP spot, but we've had Presley hitting there. We've had Abby hit in that spot. So and those are 3 bats that we need to try to figure out how we're going to be able to use them to our advantage. And so obviously they can't all be DPs, and they're pretty set in some of the other positions. So, Presley just a DP, that's what she does. Abby can play, second, and she sort of playing behind Zoe. So Zoe Wright. So it's a lot of mix there, and I'm just trying to get my mind around how I get a everyday lineup, something that we're going to set on and leave it alone. And I'm not sure that we'll ever accomplish that this year. We just maybe having to go with some people who we think are the hot ones.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of wait and see. And Look, the beautiful thing about being in a team and maybe not being a little unsettled before we get into conference is there's still a lot of opportunity out there for a lot of different players to sort of grab hold of that. And we'll see who can grab hold of that. If anybody, you're hoping that you give a couple of opportunities out there and you hope that a kid will grab onto it and run with it and just say, okay, cool. Like we'll just let her, go and do her thing and right or left, or both of them are at the DP spot and just kind of ride off into the sunset from there. But yeah, we did talk a little bit about those freshmen, and talk to me a little bit about Mia Leone behind the plate, and because she's really seemed to surprise with how good she's been defensively. I know, and I talked a little bit about this while you were kind of figuring out your technical difficulties, that we still need to get her a little bit more assertive, and I think that's where she'll benefit from playing a little bit more and playing behind Jace and seeing how Jace really leads this team as a catcher. And being as communicative as she is, and Mia needs to sort of grow a little bit in that regard.
Yeah, my best thing to say about Mia, she's an imposing factor back there. You see her when she steps back there. We need to hear her. We need to hear her take control. Where she's people are looking. That kid's commanding the position. Just not by just looking. What's the cliche? She gets off the bus well. When she gets when she comes out on the field, she looks like the intimidator that she can be or is or could be. She proved that a little bit when she threw one of their quicker runners out. It was heads up on that. Just a little bit more involved in knowing what's going on in other places, figuring it out. I think is going to be really crucial for her. But she's learning. We had a cut play where I thought we had a play at the plate, and she called cut, and I think we had to run her dead to right. And this. One of those things. She's learning that position, but I'm proud of her progress. Swings the bat well. I think we've yet to see some of the things that she's going to be able to do offensively for us.
All right, my last thing that I want to get into, Coach, is we talked about last time. You've been here for 24 years. This is your 24th year, and you mentioned sort of during the conversation last week about how players were different from then to now, and I asked you how you were different from then to now. But I want to know this week is, in your 24th year, what continues to get you up in the morning to want to come and do this job and be a part of this program and just keeps you going and wanting to continue to do this? Obviously, like I know because I love coaching and it's a very rewarding thing for me personally, but talk to me about what keeps you going at in your 24th year that just gets you up and gets you in the office every single day.
I think the avenue for that is knowing that it's more than coming here to coach softball. It's more than just making out a lineup. It's more than just going to practice. It's those young people that you have an opportunity to become acquainted with, associate with, and see how they grow and mature, not just in the classroom. We got, we mentioned Presley, we mentioned Ace. Those are both a nuclear engineer and a biomedical engineer. I mean, those kids are some of the tops. And I don't know everybody's degree. I just know them because they're missing a lot of practice to be able to do this degree. And so, so I'm familiar with that, and some of the others I'm sure just as important. Whatever they're going to be doing in life is just as important as those degrees. But I know that one those have caused them to be away. But just the opportunity to touch a life, to tell them. You never thought that a coach would sit here and say, there's more to this world than just playing softball. There's more than just making it on the lineup. There's more than just going to the game. My whole family's involved. I played softball myself. My dad was a fast pitch player. I've been around this game since I was a baby. So it's an important part. But I think as I've grown older, I realized that there's how we take the game and use it for Christ and be able to give those values to our kids, not to preach to them every day, but to see that hopefully in my life and then around our program that they would want to be more Christ-like and be able to turn around and give back to the people that they're around them. And so I think we've done a pretty good job at that. That's a daily task. I think we get up every morning, we pray that we're going to do the right things. One of the things we talk about too is how we use how we use what we do to give God the glory. He's given us the ability, gave me the ability to coach for whatever, or gave me the ability to be around the game. It's not just coming in and taking from the game and not giving back. How do we give back? We give back by, I think mentoring young people and showing them that at the end of the day, it's life short lived, and the opportunity to play is short lived. I guess me or you both would love to go back and be able to play the game again, and those opportunities go pretty quickly. I was hearing a coach the other day said one of his starting with a basketball player. He said he's only got so many more starts. He's only got so many more baskets to shoot, so many more steals, so many more up and down the court, and that's the same thing with softball. You only got so many more balls to hit, balls to chase, balls to field, and be around those teammates. And I said, what do we take from that, and how we project it into the business world if we've got a business major, or the engineering world if we've got an engineering major, and you're going to come in and hopefully be in a situation where you can say, I love the game, but Christ gave me the ability to play, and without that, I wouldn't be able to here to do that. I continue to talk about David Blackburn's family. Charlie's anniversary death was Monday, and we talked about that. We sent a message to David and his family from our team, and I'm sure hopefully that uplifted them a little bit and how they reach out, and even uplifted our kids to be able to say that. So what gets me up every morning to come here, what gets me to go to the field, those are the things that I feel like are doing it. Without that, if I'm not doing that, I think anybody can do this job.
All right, Coach. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Just that was a great sentiment by you, but you talked about your playing days. So what position did you play?
Well, my dad was a middle infielder. He's played second base, number 10. I became a middle infielder, second base shortstop, number 10. My daughter was a middle infielder. She played here for me, and she high school coach and won some state championships down at Gordon Lee High School. She number 10. And I got a granddaughter that started out to be a middle infielder and decided to back up a little catching, and now she's decided she's a catcher. So if you ask her, she's a catcher. First time in our family we've had one of those outside of my brother. So, I've been around so many softball games, it's unreal. But I learned to love the game from men's fast pitch. And then I got to see a little bit of it again. It sort of faded away, but I was coaching with Team Dominican, coached with them some years, 5 years in Team Mexico. But we were in Colombia, South America, and I got to watch the team men's Cuba play. I'm not sure. Cuba was playing in one of the other, Puerto Rico or something like that, Venezuela or somebody like that. Two strong men's fast pitch teams, and just to watch them, I remember getting on the phone and calling my dad. I think we were in Colombia, South America, and I said, I'm watching fast pitch like I used to remember seeing it play. And that's how I fell in love with the game. And to this day, we're still doing it. It's blessed my life and put me in a situation where I would never have been had I not embraced it.
Absolutely. Again, great sentiment there, and love that you were a middle infielder as well. And that's kind of, gone through your family, right up until your granddaughter now who wants to be a catcher. And I've seen her play. She's a good little player as well. So looking forward to seeing the future for her as well, and in our future as well, because we've got more home games coming up this weekend. We've got the Frost Classic at Frost Stadium. We've got, 2 games on Friday. We'll start off with Indiana State at 3:00. And then right after that, will be IU Indy. And then on Saturday, we've got a couple header as well. We'll play against Lamar at 12:30, Illinois State at 3:00. And then we'll finish out the weekend on Sunday at 12:30 with SEMU. So great lineup of games, a lot of different teams coming in here. So if you're a fan of UTC softball or just softball in general, come out to Frost Stadium all weekend this weekend to see the Mocs play and to see obviously some other schools that you wouldn't be used to seeing here in Chattanooga. Unfortunately, I will not be there this weekend. I've got to travel for my brother's wedding, so we'll be excited about that. But I will be wishing y'all the best from afar, and hopefully Ann will be live tweeting the games because I would love to keep up with it.
Sounds good.
Coach, thank you for the time as always, and I will see you out at practice.
All right, thanks. Have a great day.